What's going on, guys? Bladezilla here, and today we're taking a look at the newest color launch from Shirogorov of the Gen 5 F95NL. This is olive. So you will have seen now, when they first launched this, it was a gold color. I think it was bronze and purple. They have recently added the black as well, black colorway, and now olive. So that kind of makes the 4 that are currently on the market. And that's what we're going to be doing a quick video and chat about today with you guys. So sit down, relax, grab a cup of coffee, grab a breakfast burrito or a water, and let's kind of get started here. As a reminder, everything that is, not everything, but most things featured on this channel are available on my web store, bladezilla.ca, which is in Canada. So I do ship down to the US as well, obviously. And if you have any questions, otherwise, just email me. But lots of good stuff available, ready to go. And that's bladezilla.ca. There you go. Now that I got the shout out of the way, the fun stuff, olive. Well, what is olive? Well, it's kind of a yellowy green color. And to me, yeah, you kind of get hints of that in this. But to be honest, it's kind of more mustardy kind of look to me than anything, but it looks good. It looks really good. Very in line with more of a subdued gold. So that's the F95NL. We've chatted about this now, I think, how many times on the channel? 3, 4. I think at this point I've done a video on all of them. So I guess let's get started with some measurements here. Alright, so what do we got here? Well, if you're new to the F95s from Shiro, 95 is the blade length in millimeters. So we are coming in at right around 4 inches, and it's a full-size blade with a handle of, what, 5? 4 3/4, 4 7/8, something like that. Overall length, 8 5/8. Roughly 8 3/4, somewhere in there. It's a full-size knife, guys. Okay. How does that fit in the Shirogorov lineup? Well, they essentially have 4 different sizes. This being the kind of mid-high. So we have one size above this, but since I don't have one of those here, we are going to kind of, actually, let's go count down the other way. So this is 95mm. We have the Stellar, which is below this in the production line. And we just so happen to have a Stellar. I believe I did a video last week on the Stellar Bronze. This one is a tie, and they also do a blue as well. And then they have the Neon. And if I can find my Neon, there we go. You will have seen this. This is a Neon 0 modified. But that's kind of your 3 sizes, right? And then one up from this, which is called the 111, which, as you would guess, is a 111mm blade. But there's no real need to get into that one. It's less available. They do the production versions. I think it's Gen 5.1. I'm expecting this year, pretty quickly here actually, to have some 111s available. As you know, it's kind of been a while. I think it's been, what, 6, 8 months, 10 months since they've been available. So, but anyway, walking through the line, you kind of get F95, right? It's their Sebenza large. Super common, super popular. It's been around forever, 11 years now, 12 years. Stellar is their new model size that kind of split the difference between the Neons. There's also an F3, which is the same size as an F95. There's also a Quantum, which is also the same size as an F95. And then there's kind of variations of Quantium, which would be kind of like this guy. And that would be your, you know, composite front scale. And there's the Hattie, which is a carbon front scale F95, right? So lots of cool stuff. And maybe I'll show you some of those side by side just to kind of give you some more comparison. Because let's be honest, we got time. We got time. We're chilling with the olive. So let's grab that Hattie again. So that is a F95 with a front scale. The F3, which is a liner lock F95, essentially. Basically, and then the Quantium, which is offered in a number of different colors. I just have blue beside me, which is the lower end, or entry level point, which is multi-row bearings with a composite G10 front scale, and it's still a frame lock quantum, right? Really good value in that one actually, and it's super light, really nice one. And then we have a bunch of variations kind of within that, where you go if you want, okay, fancy quantum, you can go into, you know, the custom division world, or if you want fancy F95, same thing, you know, you're in the custom division territory, etc. These are running on roller bearings, whereas the standard issues are on multi-row bearings. So let's talk about that actually on the bearings. So Shiro does kind of 3 options if you're new to this, or actually 4 really, 5. Man, I need to like rehearse this better, hey? So 5 options. So single row bearings, which is, think of it as a standard bearing right on a track in a circle. Multi-row bearings, which is kind of their upgraded version, which is a pinwheel pattern of, you know, let's take that same track and put 3 bearings kind of in a row or on a neon 2, but it'd be kind of in a pinwheel like the rays of a sun. And then roller bearings, which think of them as, instead of bearings on a track, they're actually like rays of sun, and they're like hot dogs, needle bearings, kind of in a circle. And then beyond that, they're full customs. Tend to, with some exceptions, have double row roller bearings, which cut those hot dogs in half, put them in kind of different patterns, and spend, you know, $15,000-$20,000, and tell me it's that much better, and it is that much better, which is tough to swallow. Multi-row bearings, to me, are what made Shirogorov what they are. Incredibly smooth. They float home, and you know, I can park this guy at basically any point along its path. Most knives would be falling right now, and with a little bump, they float home. It's just so smooth and controlled, and unique, you know, and tuned, I should say. On the production F95NL, so we've got lots of cool features. The captive pivot system. We've got the carbo tie, or sorry, techno carbo on the handle, which is actually lifted off from the top of the handle as well. You can see how there's a gap here. Maybe I should flip that around and price. Maybe you see a little better that way. But you can see how it's actually lifted off the top of the titanium handle. So it's made so that it kind of, your hands really find it nice and smooth. It's just a really comfortable knife. Everything's milled to perfection all throughout the knife. Everything from the pocket clip, you see all those horizontal, beautiful milled lines. The lock bar itself, another gorgeous spot. That's all milled to perfection. And these are the details that when you're sitting in your office or your desk or on the job site and you look down and the light catches that, it's just an absolute stunning work of art. The milling on the, I guess the heel as well, all kind of exaggerated around that clip. And then the stonewash flats on this is perfect because it's going in and out of your pocket. You know, it's not going to show scratches as much as, you know, you would think, right? And that's a nice little touch. And then the pattern as well, it's still found on the bottom here, all milled quietly on the bottom, and then the top. Just a gorgeous knife. It's my personal favorite production knife they've ever done is the F95s. And actually the knife that kind of got me into Shiro in the first place was the Turtle, the F95 Turtle. And I just love the F95. It's such a good size and hand. The jimping now as well, as you can kind of see, matches the back spacer. That's been going on for quite a few generations now. It's a nice touch. Very usable, but you know, I love it because you can kind of choke up past the jimping if you wanted to, as the blade kind of pinches in and then flattens out at the tip. That's what she said. And just a real comfortable knife. The top here is kind of squished in as well, so you can kind of see on the blade if it wants to focus. I should pay attention to that and make sure it's actually focused. You kind of get like this cockpit fighter jet kind of vibe to it, which is just cool. You know, not needed, but just cool around that jimping. If I flip the blade over, we see M390, which is the steel. In a perfect world, I would like that to not be on the blade, much like the Shirogorov logo used to be on the blade on the other side in the same spot. since they moved it to the handle right here, as you can kind of see. But even on their customs and full customs, that's a point of pride. They like to stamp that steel on there. I personally would like it to be hidden right up in here. Somewhere in the blade up top would be awesome. I did see, was it, I think the Arsenal show recently. They actually had some Gen 5 F95s as a show special, 50 pieces in MagnaCut. So I'll have to keep an eye out on those. I don't know if any of those made it over to North America, but I did see some. And typically, I'm just saying, typically if they're going to do some special runs of MagnaCut, typically that's a matter of time before it's in other models. So that's my little tidbit of the week. So hopefully we see some F95s in MagnaCut, whether it's turtles, whether it's more inlays, whether it's other variances. But that'd be kind of cool. Whether or not you like MagnaCut, M390 to me is kind of right now the gold standard, or 20 CV. I've had some friends use MagnaCut extensively and much prefer 20 CV still. So I don't know if that's a heat treating thing or what, but to me, Shiro's M390 or 20 CV, it just works, and it's user serviceable, and it's just a solid, reliable steel. You don't hear people complaining about it. So if I flip that guy back open, I love how the lock bar, as I roll this guy as well, see how right here it's angled and it sticks up from the frame. See what I'm saying? As I roll the knife. So that makes finding it with your thumb just that much easier and comfortable. It's a beautiful, comfortable knife to lock and unlock. And then if we look at that again, we still have a metal lock bar insert, and I should say / over travel stop. And what that is so that when you put this titanium frame together, they put an artificial bend in the lock bar so that it kind of engages and disengages the steel. And if you don't have an over travel stop and you're constantly pushing this back and forth, you could have the tendency to push it past the actual blade itself, which, at some point it will fail you. So they build a little, looks like a hanging molar tooth. I don't know if you'll see it on the camera or not, but it's underneath that screw, and it just prevents that lock bar from traveling past the frame. Now the steel that's in here, the lock bar insert, that's to tune between the materials, right? So titanium frame, M390, S90V, whatever, MagnaCut blade. Those two materials don't always interact perfectly together, so that's why they put that different steel in there. And I don't know what it is, but it tends to be softer than the two, like so it doesn't damage either. So it tends to be like a tool steel, or not tool steel, but like just like a regular steel, nothing too crazy. I actually have never found out what they use there, or if they change it by model, but nothing fancy. And then you can obviously change that out. Pretty simple. What else can I talk about on this guy? Well, I talked about the inlay on the other side, which matches the actual, and I'm going to close this blade because I'm going to hurt myself. The inlay on the back here in that Technocarbo looks great as well, matches the front. And once again, another little fact is, this goes right under the clip as well, so you're not worried about it peeling up kind of as your jeans or whatever are kind of riding that line in and out. So that's a nice little touch. The frame, the lock bar itself puts all the pressure onto the frame versus the lock bar. So when you hold that clip, the weight of the hold is transferred to the frame, not the lock bar. So that's how you hold it, right? Knife can still come out, no problem. But if your finger is on the lock bar, it's just like this much, it's not going to come out. So that's why they do that. They angle it to the frame. The pocket clip is attached internally as well on the inside with a screw, which is awesome. And if you do take a look inside one of these guys, you'll see extensive milling, weight reduction. I can't recall, it was like 4 and 6, I can't remember. A little over 4 ounces. But it's all milled out inside, skeletonized. It's kind of their high-end work. And I highly recommend if you ever do get one of these, to open one of these guys up, take it apart. They're very user serviceable, and the work on the inside is at a whole other level from anything that's currently available in this kind of price point. The detail work is extensive, and they often put lots of little Easter eggs in there, which is just so cool to see. And not everyone has one as well. It's one of the best. What else can I talk about on this guy that I haven't already addressed? The pivot hardware and I guess pocket clip hardware inside, they use these kind of flathead screws, which at first glance you'd go, yeah, you know, I've got a screwdriver for that, and you probably do. They are a little wider set apart in the channeling, so you're going to mar it up if you do use that. If you don't have a Shirogorov tool for it, you can get away with like a penny, aka a soft material, which you probably shouldn't on a knife like this, but you can get away with it, or like a MasterCard folded up in half, because when you buy one of these, they will immediately become useless with a lack of limit, and fold it on itself, and you can use that to take it apart. They're not Loctited or anything, so they should be pretty easy to take apart. But you know what? I think these are $1,200 US or something, $1,150 US MSRP plus getting them into Canada. You may as well just get a Shiro pen or tool, and you're not going to worry about marring it up or damaging the hardware. Which I think these hardware kits are available, and I want to say they're around $100 US. So they're not super expensive to change out, but expensive enough that, no one wants to spend $100 on something that can be avoided when you can put that $100 towards the tool. God, that sounds good. The backspacer as well, beautiful. It's kind of got that stone wash to it. And the backspacer has a lanyard hole built in, or a lanyard spot that's kind of built into the tip. That's pretty nice, hey? Instead of from the side, like on the Stellar, which I've mentioned a few times, the Stellar's lanyard hole is right into the actual design, so you see through the knife that way. And some people, that's a bit of a turn-off. I don't personally care, but just having that there for some is a bit of a design annoyance. On a lot of the other F95s, Quantums, etc., they've been building that lanyard spot right into the backspacer for quite some time. And it looks great, very functional, and if you fall or damage it, you can just replace it. So I like that. And as I mentioned earlier, that Shirogorov Bear is now on the actual frame itself, which is a nice touch. And I'll show you what I mean if I can find one. I thought I had a knife here, that blue Quantium maybe? Yeah. So there's a blue Quantium. So that's where they were putting the Bear, which, it's like, it looks fine, right? And then Chromax on the other side, right? But the problem is, if you're going to use the knife, you're right on the cutting path, which could wear off that, right? It'd be like putting your M series badge on top of the tire of your BMW. It's like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why don't we put it on the trunk, aka the frame, where it's not going to see wear? I don't know why I decided to use BMW or trunk or tire there, because that has zero relativity to my interests in my personal life. But there you go. Another thing, so F95's really comfortable, kind of a medium set detent, in that it requires the flipper tab to be kind of just above center of the hardware here, so just nice and comfortable. So that flipper tab, it's got some nice kind of medium jimping, nice and comfortable, comes out nice and easy, nice and smooth every time. Just a real nice, smooth experience. But the further that you would kind of position that flipper tab out from the center of this, the more kick the flipper is going to have on it, and the further back, the less kick. Think of it as like the bigger gear on a bicycle. And I always show this, but the Tom Mayo Dr. Death is a perfect example of that, where the tab is back from the center, and people think, oh, it's got a really light detent. It's like, no, you're just putting less force into opening it, and it sure can flick out if you want it to, but you can also fail it with a light pull, right? Because it's more or less, what's the word? I'm not an engineer. Less force on that. So, and then there's also options That kind of push that even further out, like heavier blades, like the 111 I want to say is pretty, not the 111, my god, the 111 is a liner lock. Some other ones, so like the RJ Martin designs, they tend to be a little more forward, I think. Let me grab one, I have one right here. No, it's, well, a little forward of center, but nothing crazy. The Barkers, I'm assuming, would be, I'd have to look, just heavy, thick steels tend to have the more forward for a bigger kick. But if you put the same force into this knife as you do on the Dr. Death, it hammers out way easier, right? They float incredibly well. In hand, as I said, I'm an extra large glove, and it fits my hand without any issues. And if I had another finger, if I was an alien, I could still hold this nicely. But for me, that means if I was wearing gloves or something, you know, it would just be nice and comfortable still. Lots of room. Just a very natural, comfortable knife. The clip is rounded, so no hot spots in the back. And the flipper tab itself is all beveled in the top here. So when you flick it out, you don't fall into any rough spots or anything. The only other thing that people kind of mention is that the backspacer on this one, there's a bit of a gap right here. And I don't know what that's from. I don't know why it's there, but it's across almost every Shiro model that they have is a gap from the backspacer to the top here. So I'm assuming it's to aid in production or setting it or something. But if you roll the knife, you don't see it. And I think it looks just fine the way it is. And you probably wouldn't have even noticed it if I didn't mention it. So there you go. Other than that, I think that might be it on the Olive F95NL, NL meaning inlay. I think we've got another absolute winner. The color is just great. It's really close to the bronze. It just doesn't sparkle as much. So it kind of depends what you like. I think it looks great, and I think it's going to be another hot seller. Of the four, what's my favorite so far? It's tough to argue with purple because purple is unique, and they've never done a whole lot of purple. Classic black also looks really good. Gold looks good, and olive looks really good too. So I think they're all kind of unique in their own, and the fact that you get that with it, meaning that it's constantly changing as I roll it around the light, it's just. You never have the same knife, right? It's perfectly imperfect, which looks good on both sides. If it wants to focus on that side, same kind of thing. It's just cool, man. I should also say that these are hand ground, so you know if you look at the tolerances on some, that blade tip is going to be either super close or not super close. It kind of varies, but they are hand ground, right? So you know there are imperfections, which is cool, but they're about as perfectly, quote, imperfect as you can get, from my experience. And even looking around like the F90, look at this. Even the pivot hardware, they've done milling around that to strengthen that up. That's so nice. Not the pivot hardware, you know what I mean. The frame hardware. Like just design elements that you don't tend to see everywhere else. Just a gorgeous one. Alright guys, well I'm going to leave you there. I'm sure I've babbled on for 20-25 minutes, and I'm going to put a bookend on that. As I said, I want to try to put a video up on every one of these different colors that I can, because I'm sure someone's going to look at a knife and say, hey, I would love to see what it actually looks like under a 3-foot artificial light with a color temperature that I have little knowledge of what it's set at. I think like 5500K, but it's pretty white, so should give you an idea of what at least it looks like in a pretty average fluorescent office setting. And I'm sure if I really wanted to improve this, I'd go outside and show you in a sparkling sunlight what it would look like, but that would be too much effort for me. I'm just kidding. Alright guys, have yourself a great week. Check out bladezilla.ca, follow me on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, and have yourselves a great week, and we will talk to you soon. Later. Peace.